The fever had been building for 3 days. I'd ignored it at first, pushed through the chills and the aching muscles and the way my vision kept blurring at the edges. Single parents don't have the luxury of being sick. Not when there's a 4-year-old who needs breakfast and daycare drop-off and bedtime stories. Not when you're working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. Not when you've spent the last 5 years building a life so carefully invisible that one missed shift could unravel everything. But my body had other plans. I woke up on Thursday morning and couldn't get out of bed. Literally, couldn't. My arms felt like they were filled with lead. My head pounded with a rhythm that matched my racing heartbeat. And when I tried to sit up, the room spun so violently I had to lie back down before I threw up. "Papa?" Nova's voice came from the doorway, small and uncertain. My beautiful child, 4 years old, with dark curls and gray eyes that were too observant for someone so young. Eyes the exact shade of storm clouds. Eyes that matched theirs. I pushed that thought away like I'd been doing for 5 years. "I'm okay, sweetheart," I managed, though my voice came out as a croak. "Papa just needs to rest for a little bit." Nova came closer, little feet padding across the worn carpet of our tiny bedroom. Our apartment was barely 600 square feet, one bedroom that we shared, a bathroom that needed repairs I couldn't afford, a kitchen with appliances that only worked when they felt like it. It was all I could afford on a barista's salary plus whatever I made from overnight data entry work. It was all I could manage while hiding. "You're really hot," Nova said, small hand touching my forehead with devastating gentleness. Like when I had the bad fever last winter. That fever had cost me $300 I didn't have for urgent care. This one was going to cost more. I could feel it in the way my lungs burned with each breath, in the way my chest felt tight and wrong. Pneumonia, probably. Maybe worse. "Can you get Papa some water?" I asked, trying to smile even though it felt like my face might crack from the effort. Nova nodded seriously and ran to the kitchen. I heard the cabinet open, heard the tap run, heard my child doing things a 4-year-old shouldn't have to do alone. I was failing. Again. The thought made tears burn behind my eyes, and I was too weak to stop them from falling. 5 years ago, I'd left everything. Left luxury and comfort and 3 alphas who'd said they loved me. Left because I'd heard them talking, heard them say that bonding with me had been a terrible mistake, heard them laugh about how they'd have to figure out how to end this gently. I'd left before they could reject me officially. Left before they could see the pregnancy test I'd taken that morning showing positive. Left before they could decide whether to keep the baby but discard me. And I'd been running ever since. Nova came back with water sloshing in a plastic cup decorated with cartoon dinosaurs. I drank it slowly, each swallow feeling like swallowing glass. "Papa needs to sleep now," I whispered. "Can you watch cartoons? Be very quiet?" "Okay, Papa." Such a good child. Too good. 4-year-olds should be loud and messy and demanding. Nova had learned too young to be careful, to be quiet, to not ask for too much. I'd done that. Made my baby afraid to be a child. The guilt joined the fever, burning through me until I couldn't tell which hurt worse. I must have passed out after that because the next thing I remember is waking up to Nova shaking my shoulder, little face scrunched with worry. "Papa, please wake up, please." "You won't wake up, and I'm scared." I tried to respond, tried to reassure my child that I was fine, but my tongue felt too heavy. My eyelids kept sliding closed no matter how hard I fought. "Papa." Nova's voice was getting further away, fading like I was sinking underwater. This was bad. This was really bad. "I'm calling the Kings," I heard Nova say, though the words didn't make sense. What Kings? We didn't know any kings. Then darkness rushed in like a tide, and I let it take me. I woke up to voices. Familiar voices that shouldn't be here, couldn't be here, that I'd spent 5 years running from. Dangerously high fever. How long has he been like this? Fuck Sterling. He's barely breathing. My eyes wouldn't open. My body wouldn't respond. But I could hear everything, and what I heard made my heart stop. Caspian. Sterling. Everett. The 3 alphas I'd loved. The 3 alphas I'd left. The 3 alphas I'd been hiding from for 5 years. No. No, 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 no. "Papa." Nova's voice, high and scared and so small. "It's okay, little one." That was Everett, his voice gentle in the way I remembered. "Your papa's gonna be fine. We're gonna make sure of it. You came really fast, Nova said, wonder creeping into fear. I called, and you came. Of course we came, Sterling replied. You said your papa needed help. We'd move mountains for that. Even though you don't know us? Silence. Heavy, confused silence. Sweetheart, Caspian said carefully, how did you get our numbers? From Papa's old phone, the one in the shoebox under the bed. It was still charged and everything, and it said emergency contact, and I didn't know who else to call because Papa won't wake up and I was scared. The old phone. The one I'd kept charged out of pure sentimentality, unable to let go of the last tangible connection to them even though I'd convinced myself I never wanted to see them again. The phone with their contact information still saved. The phone I'd hidden, but apparently not well enough. You did exactly the right thing, Everett assured Nova. Calling us was very brave. Are you really going to make Papa better? Yes. All three of them said it simultaneously, that eerie triplet synchronization I remembered so well. We need to get him to a hospital. Sterling said, and I felt hands, large, warm, unmistakably alpha, touch my face. Jesus, he's burning up. Rowan, can you hear me? I wanted to respond. Wanted to tell them to leave, to forget they'd seen me, to pretend this never happened. But my body wouldn't cooperate, and then I was being lifted Caspian's arms. I'd recognize his cedar scent anywhere and carried toward what sounded like a vehicle. What about my stuff? Nova asked. And Mr. Rabbit? We'll get everything you need, Everett promised. Right now, we need to take care of your papa. Okay. Can I come too? Absolutely. You're not leaving our sight. The last thing I remember before unconsciousness claimed me again was Nova's small hand finding mine, holding tight while three voices I'd tried so hard to forget murmured reassurances I desperately wanted to believe. When I woke up again, I was in a hospital bed. The beeping of monitors was the first thing I registered, followed by the scratch of clean sheets against my skin. My head still felt like it was stuffed with cotton, but the fever had broken enough that I could think semi-clearly, which meant I could panic properly. I opened my eyes to find a private room, the expensive kind with actual walls instead of curtains, with equipment that looked new and functioning, with a view of a city skyline I recognized. Seattle. We were in Seattle, which meant we were barely an hour from where I'd been hiding in Tacoma. Don't try to sit up. I turned my head slowly, because even that made the world tilt, and found Sterling sitting in a chair beside my bed. He looked exactly the same. Sharp features, pale blue eyes that missed nothing, dark hair styled with the kind of precision that required a personal barber. He wore a suit that probably cost more than 3 months of my rent, and his expression was carefully neutral in a way that meant he was absolutely furious. Where's Nova? The words scraped out of my throat. With Caspian and Everett, getting food from the cafeteria. Sterling leaned forward, elbows on his knees. They wanted to be here when you woke up. But Nova was hungry, and we figured at least 2 of us should stay with her. We've been rotating. How long? 18 hours since your child called us in a panic because you wouldn't wake up. His voice was level, controlled, but I could hear the anger underneath. 18 hours since we discovered that Rowan Hayes, the Omega we've been searching for 5 years, has been living an hour away under a different last name with a child we didn't know existed. Shame burned hot in my chest. You need to leave. No. Sterling. No, he repeated, harder this time. You don't get to disappear again. Not this time. Not when we just found you. Not when you're sick enough that the doctor said another day without treatment would have killed you. The blunt statement made my breath catch. You have pneumonia. Both lungs. Severely dehydrated. Malnourished to the point that they're amazed you were still functioning. Sterling's jaw was tight. When's the last time you had a proper meal, Rowan? When's the last time you went to a doctor for yourself instead of just your child? I didn't have an answer for that. That's what I thought. He ran a hand through his hair, the first crack in his composure. What the fuck happened? Why did you leave? Why did you hide from us? Why, his voice broke slightly, why didn't you tell us about Nova? Before I could answer, before I could figure out what answer wouldn't destroy what little dignity I had, left the door opened. Caspian and Everett walked in with Nova between them, each holding one of my child's hands. My heart stopped. Because Nova looked so small between them, but also so right, like a missing puzzle piece slotting into place. And the alphas. Caspian with his military bearing and dark eyes that softened when they found mine. Everett with his easy grace and gentle expression that hid ruthless intelligence. They looked older. 5 years of aging visible in the slight lines around their eyes, the threads of silver starting to show in Caspian's temples. They looked successful, wealthy, everything I'd left behind. And they looked at me like I was something precious they'd lost and finally found again. Papa! Nova let go of their hands and ran to my bedside. You're awake! The doctors said you would be, but you were asleep so long I was worried. I pulled my child into my arms carefully, mindful of the IV line and monitors, and buried my face in dark curls that smelled like hospital soap and something else. Something alpha. They'd scented my baby. Whether intentionally or not, Nova smelled like all three of them now. Mine, my omega hindbrain snarled, even as my rational mind knew that was ridiculous. I'm okay, sweetheart, I managed. Papa's much better now. The alphas helped, Nova said seriously. They made sure you got medicine, and they stayed the whole time, and Caspian carried you, and Everett bought me chicken nuggets, and Sterling read me 3 stories. Each word was a small knife to my chest. I looked up at them, standing at the foot of my bed like they weren't sure if they were allowed closer. Thank you, I whispered, for helping, for taking care of Nova. But we'll be fine now. You can go. No, Everett said, his voice gentle but immovable. We can't. Yes, you can. You've done enough. I can take it from here. Rowan, Caspian's voice cut through my protests. You collapsed from pneumonia. Your child is 4 years old. You're living in an apartment that, according to the address Nova gave us, is in a neighborhood where we had to convince 3 drug dealers to leave while we grabbed your things. You went to my apartment? We got Nova's stuffed rabbit and some clothes, Sterling confirmed. And we saw the eviction notice on your door, the one dated 2 weeks ago giving you 30 days to vacate. Hot shame flooded through me. That's not your concern. The fuck it isn't, Caspian's composure cracked. You're the Omega we've been searching for 5 fucking years. The Omega who disappeared without a word, without explanation, without giving us a chance to fix whatever we did wrong. And now we find out you've been struggling alone, raising a child alone, getting evicted and too sick to function, and he stopped, jaw working. Nova had gone very still in my arms. Language, I said quietly. Sorry, Caspian muttered. Then, louder, Nova, sweetheart, can you go with Sterling for a minute? We need to talk to your papa about grown-up things. Are you going to yell at Papa? Nova's small voice was suspicious. No, all 3 alphas said in unison. Promise? Promise, Everett confirmed. We just need to have a conversation. Sterling will take you to see the fish tank in the lobby. It's huge. Nova looked at me for permission. I nodded, even though the last thing I wanted was to be alone with these 3. Sterling scooped up my child, our child, I mentally corrected, because genetic testing would prove what I already knew, and left. Silence filled the room. Finally, Caspian spoke. We need to know why you left. Does it matter? Yes, Everett said firmly. It matters, because we've spent 5 years thinking we did something to drive you away, something we couldn't figure out because you were just gone. One day you were there, the next your apartment was empty, your phone disconnected, no note, no explanation, nothing. You hired investigators? I said flatly. Don't pretend you didn't look. Of course we looked. Caspian confirmed. We turned over every rock in this state, but you'd changed your name, changed everything. Hayes instead of Ellis. It was like you wanted to disappear. I did. Why? The anguish in Everett's voice made my chest ache. I closed my eyes. Because I heard you. That night, 2 weeks before I left. I came home early from work, and you 3 were in the office talking. The door was cracked, and I heard. I could still remember it so clearly, their voices, the laughter, the exact words that had destroyed me. I heard you say that bonding with me was a terrible mistake, that you'd have to figure out how to end this gently, that you didn't know what you were thinking, getting involved with a common Omega when you needed someone from a proper family. The silence that followed was absolute. Then Caspian said, very carefully, we never said that. Not about you. Not ever. I know what I heard. Rowan. Everett moved closer, his voice gentle. 2 weeks before you left, we were in a conference call with our father. He was pressuring us to end a business merger, one we'd pursued against his advice, because he said it was a terrible mistake, and we needed to figure out how to end it gently before it damaged the company. I opened my eyes, staring at him. Our father has always been a controlling bastard, Sterling added, having returned without Nova. He hated that we chose you, a barista with student loans and no family connections, instead of letting him arrange a match with some alpha family's Omega child. He spent months trying to break us up. That conversation wasn't about you, Caspian said. It was about a fucking shipping contract, but you thought. He stopped, something like horror crossing his face. You thought we wanted to end things with you. You laughed, I whispered. After you said it, someone laughed. That was me, Sterling said. I laughed because our father was being ridiculous, and I just figured out how to turn his own contract against him. I was laughing at him, not at. His voice broke. Jesus, Rowan, you thought we didn't want you? You were always out of my league. I was waiting for you to realize it. Out of our league? Everett's voice rose. Rowan, you were it for us. The one. Our fated mate. We knew it the second we met you. We were already planning to ask you to bond with us officially. The room spun, and it had nothing to do with the fever. No, you can't, that doesn't. We had the rings commissioned, Caspian said, quietly. 3 stones, one from each of us. We were going to ask you that weekend, the one after you disappeared. We had dinner reservations and everything planned. I couldn't breathe. 5 years. 5 years of running, of hiding, of raising Nova alone because I thought they didn't want me. And it had all been a misunderstanding. I was pregnant, I heard myself say. When I left, I'd just found out that morning. I was going to tell you that night, but then I heard you talking, and I thought you were trying to figure out how to get rid of me, and I couldn't let you reject the baby too, so I ran. All 3 of them had gone very still. Nova, Sterling said slowly. Nova is ours. Yes. You've been raising our child alone for 4 years. Yes. Because of a misunderstanding about a fucking shipping contract. I didn't know it was a misunderstanding. The machine started beeping faster, my heart rate spiking. Immediately, Caspian was there, his hands on my face, his scent washing over me in waves meant to calm. Breathe, he commanded. Just breathe, Omega. You're safe. You're both safe. We've got you now. My Omega hindbrain latched onto the command, onto the familiar scent, onto the promise of protection I'd been desperately missing for 5 years. I breathed. Slowly, my heart rate returned to normal. What happens now? I asked, when I could speak again. The 3 alphas exchanged looks. Then Everett said, now you recover. Both of you come stay with us while you get back on your feet. We get to know our child, and we figure out if there's any way to salvage what we lost. I can't just move in with you. Why not? Because it's been 5 years. You don't know me anymore. I don't know you. Nova doesn't know you. And I can't. My voice broke. I can't let my child get attached to you just to lose you when you realize this is too complicated. We're not going anywhere, Sterling said firmly. Whether you want us or not, Nova is our child. We're going to be part of their life. The only question is what role you're willing to let us have in yours. The door opened again, and Nova peeked in. Is the grown-up talk done? I want to show Papa the fish. The transformation in all 3 alphas was instantaneous. The serious, intense men became gentle, welcoming, their entire focus shifting to the small child. Come here, little one, Caspian said, lifting Nova easily. Tell Papa about the giant fish. And I watched my child, our child, chatter excitedly to 3 alphas who looked at them like they'd hung the moon. Watched them hold Nova with a care and gentleness that made my chest ache. Watched the family I could have had 5 years ago if I just asked a question instead of running. Okay, I heard myself say. We'll stay, until I'm better. Then we'll figure out what comes next. The relief on their faces was almost painful. Thank you, Everett said quietly. And I tried not to think about how natural it felt when Caspian sat beside me on the bed, still holding Nova. When Sterling claimed the other side, his hand finding mine. When Everett perched on the edge, completing the circle, Tried not to think about how much I'd missed this, how much I'd missed them. The doctors kept me for 3 more days. During that time, I learned things about the 3 alphas I'd left behind. They'd built their company into something massive. Ashford Logistics now controlled shipping contracts across the Pacific. They were worth billions, though they wore it with the same casual ease they'd had when I knew them before. They'd never bonded with anyone else, had never even looked, according to Sterling. We were waiting for you to come back, or for us to find you. We always knew we would, eventually. They asked about Nova constantly. What did our child like, dislike, favorite foods, favorite colors, favorite everything? I answered their questions and watched them commit every detail to memory like it was sacred. And I saw them with Nova. Saw Caspian's military precision soften into patience when showing Nova how to fold paper airplanes. Saw Sterling's sharp intelligence become gentle guidance when reading picture books. Saw Everett's calculated charm transform into genuine delight at Nova's questions. On the 3rd day, Dr. Reeves, the pulmonologist who'd been treating me, sat down with all of us. Your lungs are responding well to treatment, she told me, but you're going to need at least 2 more weeks of antibiotics and complete rest. No work, no stress, no exertion. I can't afford 2 weeks off work. You don't have to, Caspian said. We'll cover everything. I can't accept. Rowan, Sterling's voice was patient. You're the parent of our child. Even if we weren't. He paused. Even if there wasn't history between us, we'd still be responsible for helping support Nova, which means supporting you. I've been supporting us fine on my own. You were 3 days from dying of pneumonia, Everett said bluntly. You were being evicted. You were working 2 jobs while raising a 4-year-old alone. That's not fine. That's survival, and you don't have to just survive anymore. I wanted to argue, wanted to insist I could handle it. But the truth was, I couldn't. I'd been drowning for years, and my pride had almost killed me. Okay, I whispered. 2 weeks. Then I find my own place, and we figure out co-parenting. Agreed, they said, though something in their expressions told me they had no intention of letting me leave after 2 weeks. They brought me to their house on day 4. House was the wrong word. Estate was closer. The Ashford family home was a sprawling modern mansion in Madison Park, all glass walls and expensive art and rooms that probably had rooms. Nova's eyes were the size of dinner plates. We're staying here? My child whispered. For a little while, I confirmed. It's like a castle. Close enough, Everett said, grinning. Want to see your room? Our room turned out to be a suite. Bedroom, bathroom, sitting area, all bigger than our entire apartment had been. Nova had a separate bedroom connected through an adjoining door, decorated in soft blues and greens. We had it set up yesterday, Caspian explained. If Nova doesn't like the colors, we can change them. It's perfect, I managed. That night, after Nova was settled in the new bed, which was more comfortable than anything my child had ever slept on, the 3 alphas, and I sat in what they called the informal living room, which was still twice the size of my old apartment. We need to talk about logistics, Sterling said. Legal things. Custody, support, how we're going to handle this going forward. My stomach tightened. I'm not giving you custody. We don't want to take Nova from you, Everett said quickly. We want to be involved, legally recognized as parents, but we're not trying to take your child. Our child, Caspian corrected gently. Nova is all of ours. How does that even work? Legally, you can't all be listed as parents. In Washington state, we can petition for tri-parent recognition in cases of triplet alpha, omega bonds. Sterling explained. It's rare, but it's legal. All 3 of us would be listed as legal parents along with you. We're not bonded. Not yet, Everett said. Then, at my expression, sorry. I mean, we're not pushing. But Rowan, biologically, Nova is our child. The genetics are going to show that. In Omegaverse biology, triplet alphas can all contribute to a single conception. We all felt the bond with you. That means Nova carries all our genetics. I'd known that, of course. Had known from the moment I saw those gray eyes that matched Sterling's, that determined chin that matched Caspian's, that gentle smile that matched Everett's. Had known my child was all of theirs. I need proof, I said. DNA testing. Official results before we talk about any legal arrangements. Done, Caspian agreed immediately. Dr. Reeves can arrange it tomorrow. Official lab, legal documentation, everything you need. The results came back 3 days later. I sat in the Ashfords' home office, staring at paperwork that confirmed what I already knew. Nova shared genetic markers with all three alphas. Not one, not two, all three. The kind of genetic contribution that only happened in triplet alpha-omega bondings. My child was theirs. Legally, biologically, undeniably theirs. What do you want to do? Sterling asked quietly. I looked at the paperwork, looked at the men sitting across from me, looked at the future I'd been running from for 5 years. I want what's best for Nova, I said finally. I want my child to grow up stable, secure, loved. I took a breath. I want you in our lives. Officially, as fathers, as whatever this is. What about as mates? Everett asked. Eventually, if we can prove that we're serious, that the feelings are still there? I don't know, I admitted. I loved you 5 years ago, but I don't know if I can trust that again. I don't know if I can risk getting hurt or watching Nova get hurt if this doesn't work. Then we prove it, Caspian said. Every single day we prove that we're serious, that this is real, that we're not going anywhere. How long? However long it takes. That night, I lay in the too large bed in the too large room and tried to process everything. 5 years of running, ended by a sick day and a desperate phone call. 5 years of raising a child alone, ended by the discovery that I'd never had to be alone at all. 5 years of hiding from men who'd been looking for me the entire time. I should have asked, should have confronted them instead of running, should have trusted that what we had was real. But I'd been so afraid, so convinced that someone like me, a barista with debt and no family, couldn't possibly be enough for 3 successful alpha brothers. And that fear had cost us all 5 years. The question now was whether we could get those years back, or at least build something new with the time we had left. I fell asleep with that question echoing in my mind. The next morning, I woke to laughter. Not just any laughter, Nova's laughter, bright and free and more joyful than I'd heard in months. I followed the sound to the kitchen and stopped dead in the doorway. Nova sat at the massive island, covered in flour. Caspian stood at the stove, flipping pancakes with the focused intensity he brought to everything. Sterling was teaching Nova how to whisk eggs, his hands guiding small ones with infinite patience. Everett was literally juggling oranges, making my child shriek with delight. Papa, Nova spotted me. Look, they're teaching me to make pancakes, real pancakes, not the frozen ones. The frozen ones we'd been eating because I couldn't afford anything else. I see that, I managed. Come sit, Sterling said, pulling out a stool. Caspian's making extra. I sat, and within minutes had a plate of perfect pancakes in front of me. Eggs cooked exactly the way I liked them. Fresh fruit arranged artfully on the side. Real breakfast, the kind I used to make when I lived with them, before everything fell apart. Good? Caspian asked. Perfect, I admitted. We ate as a family, the thought struck me without permission, and I watched my child blossom under the attention of 3 alphas who clearly adored them. This, I thought, this is what I took from all of us. The guilt was crushing. After breakfast, after Nova ran off to play in the massive backyard with its playground that had definitely not been there a week ago, Sterling found me on the terrace. Stop, he said. Stop what? Blaming yourself. I can see it all over your face. I looked out at the view, Lake Washington sparkling in the morning sun, Seattle's skyline in the distance. I stole 5 years from you. From all of you. 5 years with your child because I was too afraid to ask a question. You were scared, Sterling said, sitting beside me. And we gave you reason to be scared. Our father was constantly undermining our relationship with you. We worked too much, didn't reassure you enough, didn't make it clear that you were forever. We failed you. That's generous. It's true. He took my hand. But here's what's also true. We have now. We have Nova. We have a chance to build something better. The question is whether you're willing to try. What if I hurt you again? What if I run again? Then we'll find you again. And we'll keep finding you, keep choosing you, until you believe that you're worth choosing. I turned to look at him, this alpha who'd always been the most analytical, the most controlled, and saw raw emotion in his eyes. I want to believe that, I whispered. Then let us prove it. The following weeks fell into a pattern. The alphas worked from home as much as possible, scheduling around Nova's needs. They took turns with daycare pickup, with meals, with bedtime routines. They learned Nova's favorite songs, favorite stories, the exact way to cut sandwiches so the crusts were just right. They proved, day after day, that they weren't going anywhere. But it wasn't simple. Nothing about blending 5 years of separation could be simple. The first time Nova had a nightmare, I woke to find all 3 alphas already in my child's room, Caspian sitting on the bed, holding Nova. Sterling at the window, checking for threats with military precision, Everett getting water and crackers like he'd been doing it for years. I stood in the doorway, watching them work together with the kind of seamless coordination that should have taken months to develop. "Papa?" Nova's small voice found me in the darkness. "I'm here, baby. I had a bad dream about you being sick again and not waking up." My heart broke. "I'm all better now. See? Right here, awake and healthy." "The alphas came really fast," Nova said, calmer now. "Like they promised. They said they'll always come when I'm scared." Over Nova's head, 3 pairs of eyes found mine, promising, pleading, hoping. "They will," I confirmed. "They keep their promises." After Nova fell back asleep, I found Caspian in the hallway. "You don't have to do that," I said quietly. "Get up with nightmares. I can handle it." "We want to," he said simply. "That's our child in there. Our child who spent 4 years without us because we failed to communicate properly. We're not missing another moment. What if Nova gets too attached? What if this doesn't work out between us and Rowan?" He cupped my face. "Stop catastrophizing. We're not going anywhere. Whether you decide you want us as mates or just as co-parents, we're in Nova's life forever. That's non-negotiable. You can't promise that." "Yes, I can, and I will, every day until you believe it." The second challenge came during Nova's first parent-teacher conference at the new daycare. The expensive one in Queen Anne that I never could have afforded. The one with actual art classes and music lessons and teachers who had master's degrees. All 4 of us showed up. The teacher, a kind beta woman named Miss Rodriguez, did a double take when we walked in. "Mr. and Mr. Ashford," she greeted Caspian and Sterling, clearly recognizing them from the enrollment paperwork. Then she looked at Everett and me. "And you must be?" "Also Mr. Ashford," Everett said smoothly. "We're triplets. And this is Rowan Hayes Ashford, Nova's other parent." I hadn't agreed to add their name to mine, but I didn't correct him either, and that felt significant. Miss Rodriguez recovered quickly. "Of course. Well, Nova is doing wonderfully. Very bright, very social, though there was one incident I wanted to discuss." My stomach dropped. "What happened?" "Nothing serious," she assured us. Another child asked Nova about having 4 parents, and Nova got very defensive. Said that families come in all shapes and sizes, and anyone who says different is wrong. Pride bloomed in my chest. "That's accurate," Sterling said. "Is that a problem?" "Not at all. I just wanted to make sure Nova wasn't feeling defensive because of comments at home. Some children with unconventional family structures sometimes feel they need to justify." "Nova doesn't need to justify anything," Caspian interrupted, his voice carrying that edge of command. "Our family structure is legal, loving, and none of anyone's concern. If other children or parents have questions, they can direct them to us. Nova shouldn't have to defend having parents who love them." Miss Rodriguez looked flustered. "Of course, I just meant—" "We know what you meant," Everett said, gentler. "And we appreciate you bringing it to our attention. We'll talk to Nova about how to handle questions without feeling defensive." That night, we did exactly that. Someone asked about my 4 parents today. Nova told us over dinner. I said it's normal, but they said it's weird. "What do you think?" I asked carefully. Nova considered this with the seriousness only a 4-year-old could muster. "I think it's special. Not everyone gets 4 parents who love them. That makes me lucky, not weird." "That's exactly right," Sterling confirmed. "Some people will have questions because they're not used to families like ours. That's okay. You can answer their questions if you want, or you can tell them to talk to a grown-up. You don't have to convince anyone that our family is real." "Because it is real," Nova said firmly. "The most real thing in the world," Everett agreed. Watching them, watching how carefully they navigated Nova's feelings, how seriously they took our child's emotional well-being made something in my chest unwind. These weren't alphas playing at parenthood. These were fathers who showed up, who prioritized, who loved. The third challenge came 2 weeks later, when my mother called. I'd been estranged from my parents since I left the alphas. They'd never approved of the relationship, thought I was aiming too high, setting myself up for heartbreak. When I'd run, I'd cut all ties, unable to bear their "I told you so." Now, someone had seen social media photos, Nova at the park with the Ashford brothers, me, clearly living in their house. My mother wanted explanations. "You're back with them?" Her voice was sharp through the phone. "After they broke your heart? After you ran halfway across the state to get away?" "It's complicated, Mom." "Is it? Because it looks pretty simple from where I'm sitting. You're right back where you were, dependent on alphas who are going to hurt you again." I felt my temper flare. "You don't know anything about what happened. I know you came home crying. I know you were pregnant and alone. I know I was pregnant and alone because I made assumptions instead of asking questions." I cut her off. Because I ran instead of communicating. Because I was afraid. The hurt was my fault, not theirs. Silence on the line. "They're Nova's fathers," I continued. "Biologically, legally, and they love our child more than anything. They're good parents, Mom, better than you're giving them credit for." "And what about you?" she asked quietly. "Do they love you, or just the child you gave them?" The question hit harder than I expected. "I don't know yet," I admitted, "but I'm giving us a chance to find out. Just be careful, Rowan. I don't want to see you hurt again." "I will." After we hung up, I found Sterling in the home gym, working through forms with brutal precision. "Your mother?" he asked, without turning around. "How did you... You only use that tone of controlled fury with her." He grabbed a towel, wiping sweat. "What did she say?" "She thinks I'm making a mistake. Thinks you're going to hurt me again." "Are we?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "I want to believe this is real. But there's this voice in my head that sounds like my mother, like all the people who said I was reaching above my station, and it keeps asking, why would 3 successful alphas actually want someone like me?" Sterling crossed the distance between us in 3 strides. "Because you're brilliant. Because you're kind. Because you make us better. Because when we look at you, we see home." That's easy to say now. It's true now. It was true 5 years ago. It'll be true 5 years from now. His hands framed my face. "I can't make you believe it. You have to choose to trust us. But I'll spend every day giving you reasons to make that choice. What if I can't? What if I'm too damaged? Then we'll wait, and we'll keep proving it, for as long as it takes." I kissed him then, desperate and grateful and terrified. "I'm trying," I whispered against his mouth. "I'm trying to trust this. That's all we ask." Slowly, so slowly, I almost didn't notice it happening. I started to relax. Started to trust. Started to remember why I'd fallen in love with them in the first place. 6 weeks after Nova's desperate phone call, I found myself in the home gym, watching Caspian teach our child basic self-defense. "Good," Caspian praised as Nova performed a perfect block. "Now show me the escape we practiced." Nova demonstrated, small body moving with surprising grace. "You're a natural," Caspian said, pride obvious in his voice. "Will you teach me the sword stuff too, like you showed Papa before?" My breath caught. Nova had been finding old photos, asking questions. I'd answered as honestly as I could. Yes, Papa knew these alphas before. Yes, we used to live together. Yes, we cared about each other very much. "I didn't know you remembered that," I said quietly. Caspian looked at me, something soft in his expression. "I remember everything about our time together. Every training session, every meal, every conversation. I've replayed them all 1,000 times, wondering what I did wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. Neither did you." He pulled Nova into a hug. "Want to show Papa what else we learned?" I watched my child demonstrate blocks and escapes and basic strikes, all taught with patience and care. Watched Caspian glow with pride, and realized I was falling in love with him again. With all of them, all over again. But falling in love wasn't enough. Not this time. This time, I needed to build something that could last. So I made an appointment with Dr. Sarah Chen, the therapist Sterling had recommended. "Tell me about your relationship," she said during our first session. I told her everything. The whirlwind romance 7 years ago when three wealthy alphas had walked into my coffee shop and somehow decided a broke college student was worth their time. The 6 months of bliss, the creeping insecurity, the overheard conversation, the flight. "You thought they were planning to leave you," Dr. Chen summarized. "And your response was to leave first. To protect myself. Did it work?" I thought about the last 5 years. The constant fear, the exhaustion, the loneliness. "No," I admitted. "It just hurt differently." "And now?" "Now they want me back. Want us to be a family. And I want to believe it's real. But I'm terrified." "Of what specifically?" "That I'm not enough. That they're doing this for Nova, not for me. That one day they'll realize they made a mistake and I'll be right back where I started. Alone." Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment. "Rowan, has it occurred to you that they might be just as scared? They're alphas. Rich, powerful, successful. Human," she interrupted. "With feelings and fears just like anyone else. They lost you once, found you again. Don't you think they're terrified of losing you a second time?" I'd never thought of it that way. "What if," Dr. Chen continued, "instead of waiting for them to prove themselves, you also worked on proving to yourself that you're worth loving?" That thought followed me home. That night, I initiated our first real conversation about feelings since the hospital. "I need to tell you something," I said when we were all together after Nova went to sleep. They immediately gave me their full attention, concern flickering across their faces. "I'm scared," I admitted. "Terrified, actually. Because I love you. All of you. I never stopped. And that means you have the power to destroy me again." "We won't," Everett started. "You can't promise that. None of us can. Relationships fail. People change. Things fall apart." I took a breath. "But I'm choosing to try anyway. Choosing to believe that what we had before was real and what we're building now can be even better." "It can be," Caspian said firmly. "It will be. Because this time, we're not taking anything for granted. This time," Sterling added, "we communicate. We ask questions instead of making assumptions. We trust each other. And this time," Everett finished, "we know how much we have to lose. We're not risking it again." "I need things from you," I said. "Patience while I work through my fears. Honesty even when it's hard. And time to rebuild trust. To remember how to be us." "Whatever you need," they promised in unison. "And I need therapy. For all of us. Individual and together. Because we have 5 years of missed communication to work through." "Already scheduled," Sterling said. "Dr. Chen recommended a colleague who specializes in alpha-omega bonding dynamics. Our first session is next week." "You already—" "We're serious about this, Rowan," Caspian said. "About you, about Nova, about building a family that lasts. If therapy helps, we'll do therapy. If you need time, we'll give you time. If you need us to prove ourselves, we'll spend the rest of our lives proving it." I felt tears start. I want to try, really try. Not just co-parenting, but us, the four of us, the way it could have been 5 years ago. The relief on their faces was palpable. "But I have conditions," I continued. "We date, properly, like we did before. I'm not jumping straight into bonding. I need to know this is real, that the feelings aren't just about Nova, that we can build something lasting." "Done," Everett said immediately. "Whatever you need. And therapy. All of us. Every week until we work through this." "Agreed," Caspian said. "And if it doesn't work, if we try and it's not right, we still co-parent. We don't let whatever happens between us hurt Nova." "It will work," Sterling said firmly. "But yes, Nova comes first. Always." I took a deep breath. "Okay, then let's try this." They stood, moved toward me with identical expressions of hope and love and determination. Caspian reached me first, his hand cupping my face with devastating gentleness. "I promise we won't waste this second chance." "None of us will," Everett added, his hand finding my waist. "We love you," Sterling said simply. We never stopped, and we're going to spend every day proving it. Then Caspian kissed me. It had been 5 years, but my body remembered the way he tasted, the way his hands felt, the way my omega hindbrains sang, mine, ours, home. When we broke apart, Everett was there, his kiss softer but no less consuming. Then Sterling, precise and controlled until he wasn't, until the kiss became desperate and claiming and perfect. Bedroom, I managed when we broke apart. Before we scandalized the staff. We barely made it to my room. The night was everything I remembered and more. 3 alphas worshiping their omega, showing me through touch and words and devotion exactly how much I'd been missed. And afterward, lying tangled in expensive sheets with 3 warm bodies surrounding me, I felt safe for the first time in 5 years. I love you, I whispered. I never stopped either. We know, they said in unison. And I believed them. The next 6 months were a revelation. Our first official date was a disaster. Caspian had planned it meticulously, a reservation at Canlis, one of Seattle's most expensive restaurants. I'd panicked for 3 hours about what to wear, finally settling on the one decent outfit I owned. Then Nova got sick 20 minutes before we were supposed to leave. Not seriously sick, just a fever and upset stomach that made leaving impossible. We can reschedule, Caspian said immediately, already on his phone canceling the reservation. No, go without me. You 3 should. We're not going without you, Sterling said firmly. That's not how this works. So instead of Canlis, we ordered pizza and watched Disney movies while taking turns checking Nova's temperature and bringing cool cloths. It should have been disappointing. It should have felt like a failed date. Instead, it felt like family. This is better than any restaurant. Everett said later, when Nova was finally asleep and we were cleaning up pizza boxes. This is real. This is what we want, all of us together, taking care of each other. Even when it's messy? I asked. Especially when it's messy. Our second date actually happened to walk around Green Lake on a Saturday morning while Nova was at a birthday party. We talked, really talked, for the first time without the weight of crisis or medical emergencies. What was the worst part? I asked. Of the 5 years I was gone? The nightmares, Caspian admitted. I'd dream that I'd find you, but every time I got close, you'd disappear, or worse, you'd look at me like I was a stranger. The empty apartment, Sterling added. We kept your place exactly as you'd left it for 2 years, thinking you'd come back. When we finally accepted you weren't coming, we donated everything to charity. But I kept one thing. He pulled out his wallet, showed me a photo, me and him at Pike Place Market, laughing at something neither of us remembered. Couldn't let go of all of it. The hope dying, Everett said quietly. About year 3, we started accepting that we might never find you. Started trying to figure out how to move on. Except none of us could. Every date felt wrong. Every potential partner felt like settling. Because they weren't you. Guilt twisted in my chest. I'm so sorry. Don't, Caspian took my hand. Don't apologize for protecting yourself. We failed to make you feel secure. That's on us. It's on all of us, I corrected. I should have asked, should have trusted. We all should have communicated better, Sterling agreed. But we're doing it now. That's what matters. The therapy helped tremendously. Dr. Marcus Webb, the specialist Sterling had found, didn't pull punches. You're all dancing around the real issue, he said during our 3rd session. Rowan, you believe you're not good enough for them. Gentlemen, you're terrified of saying the wrong thing and driving him away again. None of you are being fully honest about what you need. What do you mean? I asked. Rowan, what do you actually want from this relationship? Not what you think you should want or what you're afraid to want. What do you actually want? The question caught me off guard. I want what we had before, but better, more stable. I want to wake up next to them and not wonder if this is the day they realize I'm not enough. I want Nova to have all of us without fear of losing anyone. I want, my voice cracked, I want forever. And that terrifies me. Why? Because what if forever isn't what they want? What if I'm asking for too much? Dr. Webb turned to the alphas. Gentlemen, forever is exactly what we want, Caspian said. We wanted it 5 years ago. We want it now. We'll want it 50 years from now. Then why haven't you told him that? Doctor. Webb challenged. Why all the careful dancing around, the patience, the letting him set the pace? Why not just say, we love you, we want to bond with you, we want forever? Because we're afraid, Everett admitted. Last time we pushed too fast, we lost him. We don't want to make that mistake again. So you're making the opposite mistake, Dr. Webb said. You're so afraid of pushing that you're not giving him the security he needs. Rowan needs to know you're certain. That you're not waiting for him to be ready. You're ready now, have been ready, will always be ready. The silence in the office was profound. Is that true? I asked quietly. You're ready now? We were ready 5 years ago, Sterling said. We're definitely ready now. Then why didn't you say that? Because we didn't want to pressure you. I started laughing. Couldn't help it. The absurdity of all of us tiptoeing around each other, all afraid of the same thing. I've been waiting for you, to be sure. I managed through laughter and tears. And you've been waiting for me to be ready. We're idiots. Completely, Caspian agreed, starting to smile. So, Dr. Webb said, looking pleased with himself. Now that we've established everyone wants the same thing, shall we discuss actually working toward it? After that session, things shifted. They stopped being so careful, started making plans that included when we bond instead of if we bond, started talking about futures that span decades, not just months. And I stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop, started letting myself believe this was real. 3 months in, they asked me to move into the primary suite with them. The massive bedroom had been retrofitted for 4 California king bed, custom-made to accommodate everyone, closet space for all our clothes, bathroom with double sinks, and a shower built for group bathing. You don't have to, Everett said when he showed me. You can keep your room, but we want you here. Want to fall asleep with you, wake up with you? I looked at the bed, our bed, if I said yes. Looked at the space they'd made for me, the physical evidence of commitment. Okay, I said. Yes, I want that too. That first night in their bed was a revelation. I'd forgotten what it felt like to be held by them. Caspian's solid warmth at my back, Sterling's arm across my waist, Everett's legs tangled with mine. I'd forgotten the way their scents blended together into something uniquely ours, cedar and smoke and something sweet I could never quite name. I'd forgotten how safe it felt. How right. I missed this, I whispered into the darkness. So did we, 3 voices answered. 4 months in, they formally adopted Nova. The court date was emotional. Nova wore a new outfit picked out specifically for the occasion and sat between all of us in the courthouse. The judge reviewed the paperwork, looked at our family, smiled. This is unusual, she said. 4 parents on 1 adoption decree, but everything is in order. Nova Hayes will legally become Nova Hayes Ashford, with all 4 of you listed as legal parents with equal rights and responsibilities. She looked at Nova. Do you understand what this means, sweetheart? It means all my parents are official, Nova said seriously. Not just Papa, but all of them. That's exactly right. Do you want that? Yes, please. The judge signed the decree, and just like that, our family was official. Outside the courthouse, Nova hugged each of them in turn. Now I can tell everyone at school, my child said happily, that I have 4 parents, and they're all real. We're all real, Caspian confirmed, and we're not going anywhere. But there were still complications. 5 months in, Caspian's father showed up unannounced. I came home from grocery shopping to find a strange car in the driveway and raised voices coming from inside. Absolutely unacceptable. You're Ashfords. You don't parade your dysfunction in public. Our family is not a dysfunction, Sterling's voice was ice. It's none of your business. It's my business when it affects the company, when clients see photos of you 3 with that Omega and his bastard. I stopped walking, froze in the hallway. Nova wasn't a bastard. We had paperwork, legal adoption, everything done right. But the word still hurt. Careful, Caspian's voice was lethal. That's our child you're talking about, and our mate. Say one more word and you'll never step foot in this house again. Your mate? You actually bonded with him? After I specifically told you. We're not bonded yet, Everett interrupted. But we will be, soon, and there's nothing you can do about it. I can cut you off, remove you from the company, disinherit all 3 of you. Do it, Sterling said flatly. We built Ashford Logistics into what it is today. We can build something else just as easily. But we're not giving up our family because you're a bigoted asshole. Boys. We're not boys. We're 32 years old. We're adults who've made our choice, and you can either accept it or leave. Silence. Then footsteps. Coming toward the hallway where I stood, frozen. The man who appeared was older than I expected, gray hair and sharp features that matched his son's. He saw me, and his expression twisted with distaste. So you're the Omega who ruined my sons. Father, Caspian appeared behind him, voice deadly. Leave. Now. Gladly. But know this, you're choosing poverty and social embarrassment over your birthright. For what? A common Omega and a child that isn't even yours? Nova is ours, all three of them said in unison. Genetically, legally, in every way that matters. Their father looked between them, seemed to realize he'd lost. Fine, ruin your lives, but don't come crawling back when this falls apart. He left. The door slammed. I stood in the hallway, grocery bags still in my hands, trying to process what I'd just heard. Rowan, Everett found me first. How much did you hear? All of it. I'm so sorry. He had no right. He called Nova a bastard. He's wrong. He's bitter and controlling and wrong. Sterling took the grocery bags from my numb hands. Nova is our legitimate child, legally adopted, loved completely. What he said doesn't change that. He said he'd disinherit you. He can try? Caspian said. We own controlling interest in Ashford Logistics. He's chairman emeritus, essentially retired. He can make noise, but he can't actually remove us. But what if? No. Everett turned me to face him. No what ifs. He doesn't get to make us doubt this. We chose you. We chose Nova. We'd choose you over the company, over his approval, over everything. You shouldn't have to choose. We already did, Sterling said. 5 years ago, when we started looking for you. Every day since when we decided you were worth waiting for. Today when we told him to leave our house and stay gone. I felt tears start. I'm ruining your life. You're making our life worth living, Caspian corrected. There's a difference. That night, after Nova was asleep, I brought it up again. What if your father's right? What if this is too complicated? What if being with me costs you everything? Then we rebuild, Sterling said, together. The four of us. That's what families do. But, Rowan, Everett took my hands. Do you love us? Yes. Do you want to be with us? Build a life together? Yes. Then that's all that matters. Everything else is just noise. It's expensive noise. We're worth billions, Caspian said dryly. Even if he somehow succeeded in kicking us out of the company, we have personal wealth that could last several lifetimes. We'd be fine. And more importantly, Sterling added, we'd be fine because we'd have each other. That's what wealth actually is, having people who matter. I looked at these three alphas who'd chosen me over their father's approval, who'd choose me again and again, no matter the cost. I love you, I said. All of you. So much it scares me. We love you too, they said in unison, and we're going to keep proving it. 6 months in, they proposed. We were at the park, the one where I'd first met them 7 years ago, when I was a broke college student working at the coffee shop they frequented. Nova was supposedly playing on the swings, but I suspected this had been rehearsed. We had a plan before, Caspian said, pulling out a small box. Before everything went wrong, we'd like to try again, if you'll have us. Inside the box were 3 rings, each with a different stone, emerald for Caspian, sapphire for Sterling, ruby for Everett. We designed these 7 years ago, Sterling explained. Had them made, ready to propose. When you disappeared, we couldn't bring ourselves to get rid of them. They've been waiting for you, like we have. Will you bond with us? Everett asked. Officially? Forever? Will you be our Omega? Sterling added. Our mate? Our forever? Nova appeared from behind a tree. Clearly this had been rehearsed, carrying a 4th ring. Will you marry them, Papa? My child asked seriously. Because I think you should. They make you smile again. I looked at the 3 alphas I'd loved, lost, and found again. Looked at the child we'd created. Looked at the family we could be. Yes, I said. To all of it. Yes. The bonding ceremony was small, intimate, just us, Nova, and a few close friends. I wore traditional Omega bonding robes in deep blue. They wore formal suits. Nova stood between us, holding the ceremonial ribbons that would bind us all together. The officiant spoke the ancient words, and I felt the bonds snap into place, three connections, three souls intertwining with mine. When Caspian's mark settled on my neck, I felt his fierce protectiveness. When Sterling's mark joined it, I felt his steady devotion. When Everett's mark completed the trio, I felt his gentle love. And for the first time in 5 years, I felt complete. That night, in the massive bed we all shared now, with Nova asleep in the adjoining room and 3 alpha bonds humming through my veins, I finally let myself believe. This was real. This was forever. This was home. No regrets? Caspian asked, like he could read my thoughts. Not a single one, I said, and meant it. 2 years later, our family had grown. Nova was 6 now, confident and loved and thriving, starting first grade at a private school that cost more than my old yearly salary. And we had twins, Sage and River, 1 year old, both boys who had somehow inherited features from all 3 alphas just like Nova. I stood in the nursery, watching Sterling rock River to sleep while Everett changed Sage's diaper with the efficiency of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. Caspian appeared behind me, arms wrapping around my waist, chin resting on my shoulder. Happy? He murmured. So happy I don't have words for it. Good. He turned me in his arms. Because we're going to give you a reason to find them. We want another baby. I stared at him. The twins are barely 1. We know. But we want a big family. Want to fill this house with children and love and chaos. All of you agreed on this? All of us, Sterling confirmed, still rocking River. What do you think, Omega? Everett asked. Ready for number 4? I looked around the nursery at the children we'd created, the alphas who loved me, the life we'd built from the ashes of misunderstanding. Ask me again in 6 months, I said, when these 2 are sleeping through the night. They laughed, and the sound filled the room with warmth. That evening, after all 3 children were finally asleep, we gathered in the living room. Nova's original emergency call had been framed the phone record showing that desperate first contact. It hung on the wall now, a reminder of how we'd found our way back to each other. I was thinking, I said quietly, about that day, about what would have happened if Nova hadn't found that phone. Don't, Sterling said immediately. Don't go down that path. But You almost died, Caspian agreed. And we almost lost you both. But Nova was brave and smart. And that phone saved everything. Because you never stopped looking, I realized. You would have found us eventually. Yes, Everett confirmed. We'd have found you. Maybe it would have taken another year, maybe 5, but we'd have found you. Because you're ours. And we never give up on what's ours. I leaned into their combined warmth, feeling the bonds hum with contentment. 5 years of running, ended by a child's desperate call. 5 years of pain, transformed into something beautiful. 5 years lost, but a lifetime ahead to make new memories. I love you, I said. All of you. Thank you for not giving up. Never, they promised in unison. And I believed them. 3 years later, we did have another baby. And then, another. 5 children, total Nova, the twins, Sage and River, and the youngest 2, Aurora and Phoenix. The house was chaos, beautiful, perfect chaos. But it was our chaos. And every time I looked at Nova, now 9 years old and wise beyond their years, I remembered that desperate phone call. Remembered my child being brave enough to ask for help when I was too stubborn. Remembered 3 alphas dropping everything to save us both. Remembered finding home again in the last place I expected. One evening, I found Nova in the study, looking at the framed phone record. Do you remember that day? I asked quietly. Not really, Nova admitted. I just remember being really scared, and then they came and everything was okay. You saved us, I said, pulling my oldest child close. You were so brave. I just called for help. That's what you're supposed to do when someone you love is in trouble. Such wisdom from someone so young. That's right, I agreed. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. I kissed Nova's head, breathing in the scent of my child, our child, who belonged to all 4 of us equally. and I thanked whatever fate had made sure that old phone stayed charged. That Nova had been brave enough to call. That 3 Alphas had been devoted enough to come, because that one desperate call had given us back everything we'd lost, had given us home. Thank you for joining Rowan Hayes' journey from desperate single parent to cherished bonded Omega. If this story of misunderstandings, secret children, and second chances touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more BL Omegaverse stories. Drop a comment telling me what moment hit you hardest. Was it Nova's emergency call, the DNA reveal, or the bonding ceremony? Until next time, remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is ask for help, and sometimes the people you think you've lost have been searching for you all along.